Welcome to the Founders Playbook, a broadcast series presented by UC Berkeley's Sutardja Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology. On the Founders Playbook, we interview innovators to discover their routines, fail-ups, mindsets, and get the real stories behind what it's like to create something new. My name is Gina Chong. I'm a student here at UC Berkeley intending to study business. I am joined here today by two incredible guests who are making strides toward a plastic-less future. First, we have Kaj Johnson, the Senior Director of Product Development and Green Chef at Method Products, and we're also joined by Shuge, a UC Berkeley student representing the startup Upcycle that has been collaborating with Method Products through the SCET Deplastify class. So hi Kaj and Shuge, thank you for joining us today. If you can introduce yourself first, Kaj, and your company Method, that would be great.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kaj Johnson. I work at Method Products. We make sustainable products for personal care, laundry, and home cleaning, and I'm a green chef.
So hi everyone, my name is Shuge. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a rising junior at Berkeley, and I'm studying a mixture of community, sustainable techniques, urban planning. I'm gonna design my own major, but I'm still working it out, so I don't completely know what I'm studying yet, but those are sort of my interests. I consider myself a community builder because I'm really involved in building different kinds of communities and doing different kinds of outreach for organizations and missions that I find meaningful for myself.
Thank you for sharing. So, as innovators at top startups like Method and as a student entrepreneur at Berkeley, I would like to hear more about your daily habits that help you stay creative and engaged. So, what would you guys say are some undebatable rules that you keep in mind while living the startup and innovator life?
Well, maybe start with rules. I don't like rules in general, but general principles. I think some of the things that are important to me are having a huge curiosity and wondering why. To hang out with smart people and kind of learn from them, their lessons and how they look at things differently than I might. Having passion and having a do attitude. It's one thing to talk about things, it's another thing to actually do. So those are a couple things that I think are important.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I think I have a lot of similar ideas to what Kaj just shared. But I think what I personally do in my day-to-day life is I attend a lot of different kind of events to expose myself to a variety of ideas. I try to read broadly and learn from different kind of people, so I can have different kind of angles that I look at the issues in our society. And I also try to actively seek out mentors. So if there's someone who is doing something that I really admire, I will try to ask them to talk to me so I can learn about their journey. And this is something I've been learning by taking art classes at Berkeley, but to document in a visual and creative way your ideas, to really draw everything out, because it's different when you write versus you draw, because drawing is sort of one step further in the conceptualization process. And in terms of rules or principles, I read the book Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Murray Brown 2 years ago, and one of the lines that really resonated with me is to not make miles wide inches deep change, but to make inch wide miles deep change, to really expanding the impact in the area that you're trying to do versus not making minuscule impact across a broader area.
Yeah, wow, there's a lot to learn there. Thank you for sharing. So for Kaj, I would love to hear a bit more about how you stay energized and motivated, especially while leading in such a fast-paced and constantly evolving environment like your company Method. So can you tell us a bit about your daily routine, both while you're at work and off work?
Well, one thing you said there is how to stay energized. And I think the fact that I'm just super interested in the things that we're doing and trying to help make change, I think really is motivating for me. I typically wake up very early, working a lot with the European group. So, it's handy to be up early and, get going, have some breakfast, read some emails, get together with some of the folks from the European team and have discussions on projects and things that are struggling or things that you want to try to move forward, problems that you're trying to solve together. And then I get some time for catch up with startups and some technology folks. I definitely try to find time in the day to do some tinkering, some experimenting. So I have a home lab that I worked on now with COVID right now. And I do try to get a lot of reading in, a lot of skimming for interesting things that would be relevant for my projects and some that are not relevant. And obviously try to get some alone time, some thinking time, walking on the water, walking in the woods, relaxing and reading an article that I want to read. So that's kind of a lot of what I try to aspire to. Don't always get to it every day.
Yeah. Do you have any recommendations for books or any articles you've read recently that have been super interesting?
Yeah, I mean, the last week was the Green Chemistry and Engineering Conference, and there was some fantastic green, sustainable chemistry, new innovations, and so that was really a blast last week. There's a couple good books, and I'm blanking on names right now, but it's on plastic and kind of rethinking how plastic is out in society, what we've kind of become comfortable with by living with plastics for so many years. And I think that was kind of some real thought-provoking inspiration that I'm recently reading.
Yeah. And on the same note about kind of plastic and a plastic-less future, could you tell us more about your project with Berkeley students and what kind of problems you were trying to solve, what it was like to work with students on this project?
Yeah, this was a partnership. We've done a couple projects with UC Berkeley. I love working with the Berkeley campus. I love the interdisciplinary program, the way they set it up and kind of mixing different majors together. And I sure wish I had that when I was going through school. It's a fantastic program. The challenge really was we decided to make it a little more complicated. We joined two companies, Method and also with Whole Foods. And the challenge basically was, how can we take bad and make good? So the idea was to take waste materials that would otherwise go into a regrettable situation, which is essentially a problem, and turn it into a positive. How can we make things that would be valuable to consumers through the way of Method business? And so the two biggest things that we buy basically are containers, packaging materials, which are typically plastic, and then chemicals. So the challenge was, how do you go from waste to good?
That's great to hear. So what would you say are some advice that you can give to students interested in working for startups, startups like Method that are super focused on sustainability and social responsibility?
Yeah, I think Shuge nailed it when she said she likes to get her exposure to a lot of different things, and things like that Green Chemistry and Engineering Conference is definitely one of those things that I would highly recommend. Getting exposure to CNE News and reading lots, interacting with a lot of your friends who have maybe interests that are a little different than you. For example, if you have a friend who's really strong in the business area, you're strong in the technology area, kind of buddying up and seeing what they're passionate about. Definitely looking at startups in the local area, talking with your professors, even maybe, kind of going on LinkedIn and looking around, spending some time on the internet and looking at small companies. So lots of things you can do, but I think the most important is to find your passion, because if you find your passion, then you will be successful no matter what you do.
Thank you, Kai. So next, we want to get a student perspective, and we have Shuge Luo from Team Upcycle, the class's top project. So welcome, Shuge. And can you tell us a bit about the solution you came up with in this Deplastify class?
Yeah, so Kai briefly introduced the problem or the challenge that we were faced, but I also wanted to introduce Deplastifying the Planet as a class. So it's a SCET class that's hosted in collaboration with School Lab in San Francisco. and they pair student teams with different kind of corporate partners, and for us to identify what's a solution for the corporate partner that can mitigate the negative impacts of plastic. And for our team, we were paired with Whole Foods and Method, and Kai was our point of contact slash mentor from Method. And our big question is, how do we transform waste into good, or how basically changing how we view waste. And how we approach this question is, we first looked at what were the waste streams that Whole Foods are creating, and what are the inputs or needs of Method, and we try to see what kind of direction we can map it. And what we came up with is to come up with a new kind of packaging where we can use recycled cardboard from Whole Foods, since that's also a large part of their waste stream. Since they're a grocery store with a lot of shipments coming in, they have massive amounts of cardboard, and I imagine other grocery stores do too. And they also have food waste because of like the organic section that Whole Food has, and that's been kind of hard to reuse. And Kai introduced us to a company nearby called Upcycle Bioplastic, in which they create PHA plastic from organic feedstock, and that's a really appealing option because PHA plastic is biodegradable and is better for the environment compared to PLA, but it's not widely adopted because it's really expensive to produce given the feedstock you need to grow to produce it. So by capitalizing on food waste or other kinds of organic waste and use that to create the bioplastic, you can make it cost competitive. So we thought about how can we basically innovate upon the packaging side and create this closed cycle between stores that are producing these waste streams and companies like Method that needs these packaging for their products.
Wow, that sounds really that sounds really complex, but yeah, that's amazing. So do you have any advice for students who also want to create something new at Berkeley, like a startup or a project? Because I know as a student myself, it's always hard to kind of manage classes and doing passion projects outside of class. So yeah.
So I think Berkeley has a really comprehensive entrepreneurship community. So there's a lot of avenues in which I think you can enter the space. There are clubs, like different kind of startup and business clubs that try to build new projects and ideas. There are classes, like classes that are being offered by SCET. And even I think there's a lot of like more project oriented classes that might not be an SCET class. You can find like potential collaborators to work on interesting projects with. There are competitions that are being hosted, like the Big Ideas competition and all kinds of different pitch competitions that's happening all the time. So I think finding one of these structured institutional space is a really great way to start because there's mentorship, there's structure, there's just like all kinds of resources that you can tap into. So Deplastifying the Planet is also a challenge lab. So I think challenge lab are a great way for students to get started. I think probably the most challenging part of like creating a project and following through is finding like-minded people, or like people who have the same values as you and want to create on a project with the same mission and are sort of able to maybe dedicate themselves like as much as you need to make this meaningful. And I think someone who wants to start a startup at Berkeley should think about where and how can they meet those kind of individuals. There's a lot of different kind of platforms at school, at events, classes, and even just like thinking less directly, like you don't have to find someone at a startup club. You could find someone in a different space. For example, in my freshman year for spring break, I volunteered with Solar Spring Break. So I think a lot of the students who came into that space were very civically minded, public service oriented, and just very environmentally conscious, and they were all very passionate. So I think I met a lot of really great peers from that space who influenced me and inspired me to like really take a really like social impact driven approach to all the projects and work that I do.
Yeah, thank you for the advice. So what would you say is the most important thing you learned from this project, or maybe experiencing a failure during the project that you might take on as a learning experience for the next innovation project you have?
So I think it was hard for our team to sometimes make our prototype because of like confidentiality from like our partners, or just it was hard to find the data. So we had to make a lot of assumptions. So we found like auxiliary data sets and made assumptions as we like try to plan and move through the project cycle. I think some of the challenges we had for our project is, for one, COVID happened and it was hard to do any kind of physical prototyping, which I know both my other two teammates were really looking forward to, and see what can we like physically make, maybe in a lab, and maybe doing some decomposition tests to see how the material will degrade in different kind of environments. And I actually asked my team what they wanted me to share for this question. So from Jenny, who was um, sort of the environmental science major of my team, her big takeaway was to ask a lot of questions and to not make assumptions. And that was also something our instructors really emphasized. So if it didn't come out of someone's mouth, they'll make that assumption, in the sense that all the work you do should be grounded in research and interviews and like basically in talking to other, not just talking to other people, but like research and data. And from Joey, don't neglect or overlook risky ideas and to really think big. And even if it's not feasible, that could spark new and different kinds of ideas. And I think for me, in terms of how I want to approach any kind of future project, really build a tribe of community, build mentors around you so that you can grow this project together and get different perspectives. Because I think it's challenging to do things by yourself. So really building community around you and relying on your community to grow your project or gain expertise is helpful.
Yeah, that was really good. Thank you. So I think that is all for my questions for you guys. Thank you so much, Kai and Shuge, for joining the Founders Playbook today. And we will be looking forward to seeing the impact you guys create in the Bay Area and for our planet. So thank you guys once again. And if you guys just want to say a quick closing.
I think it's a great program. It was a lot of fun. I think it was a super project and probably a challenging one, but I think a really good learning opportunity for everyone. If we do have a minute, I'll grab those books that I couldn't remember.
Oh yes, for sure.
I think this class was a really good opportunity, and I encourage anyone who's looking to do something of this nature, innovative work, to consider enrolling in an SCET class, because it's a really good playground or bouncing off point for you to do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
So this was the book that I couldn't remember, The Future of Packaging. It's
yes.
Really good. And it talks a lot of nice examples and stories. And this is also, I forgot about this one, but this one's an awesome book as well. It's kind of the chemistry, the explanation of food, and it talks about the chemistry, but when you think about sustainability, it's so closely connected to what we do and what we want to do. So it gives a whole mess of really fun, interesting ideas.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I will definitely be looking into those books because I'm interested in both of these things. So thank you guys again for joining, and we hope to hear from you guys next time.